Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to our continuing reviews of Ahsoka. Tonight, dealing with Part 6, Far, Far Away. And joining me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend from SmirkingRobPlays and so many other places. It's Rob Stone.
Hey everybody, glad to be here as always to talk about another episode of Ahsoka, or pretty much anything, whatever we're going to talk about. We're going to make it fun. We're going to make it entertaining at least. We're going to say some things that should, at least get in your head a little bit. So, without further ado.
Make it a fun time. Yes, and you may notice with just the two of us tonight, we are, of course, planned to have Mr. Don Willie here with it, but unfortunately, Don got caught up right behind a Purgle pileup on Intergalactic 95. So, not going to be able to make it to the show tonight, but he should join us next week, and I know he was really excited to jump into this episode. So, also want to let you know, we'll be doing a bit of a blitzkrieg review discussion tonight, as tonight is my 20-year wedding anniversary. And my wife is so kind to let me come on and chat with you all live, but I'm not going to push it. So we're going to try and make this quick and cover everything up. Want to be sure to say hello to Eric, Scott, and Barbaro joining us live in the chat straight away. Welcome, folks.
What's up, fellas?
Glad to have you. So let's get into things. I got to say, I'll just say it straight off. This may be my favorite episode of the season. I really enjoyed this. I thought it gave everything nicely. I thought it was beautifully paced. Things move forward. There's some good action. There's some good drama. There's some great reveals. I mean, they kind of put everything into this episode, in my mind. So really kind of pleasantly surprised. Rob, what did you think about this episode? I know we've had a lot of back and forth going on through this season.
This is one of the best Star Wars things. Like, you have to kind of put them all in little categories, This is the best version of blah, 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 or the best depiction of this or whatever. But as far as, like, things Star Wars and directions that I want to see Star Wars go, this is, like, one of the best examples of that. And just a really great... I mean, it's everything I've been waiting for, I guess, at least to feel like we're really headed somewhere, and getting to see new places and we're in new territory as far as like the Star Wars universe goes. Like as far as like TV shows and everything, where we're going, what we're doing, we're outside the comfort zone like of the regular galaxy, and we're seeing we're seeing old things, new like there's so much to love about this episode. It's really hard. Like, I tried to come up with something to complain about it. I really did. I was like, I can't just not have anything. And I mean, I found that the one thing I thought about, well, two things, but neither of them really changed anything.
He's so excited, I think we lost him. Or maybe I'm the one that's lost.
Hello? I'm still here. Hello?
Oh, now I gotta cover things up all by myself. No, gonna deal with some of this technical stuff, folks. We'll get back right away. But yeah, I'm gonna support everything that Rob was saying there. Really well done. In fact, I gotta give hats off to Jennifer. I'm gonna butcher this. I'm terribly sorry. Jennifer Getzinger, who directed this episode, did an amazing job. Like I said, really, the pace on this episode was so well done. Things moved so quickly and so well. I think everything was paced out well. Anyway, Jennifer's been doing tons of work for years and years, couple of decades at least. You may recognize some of the shows that she has worked on. Westworld, Mad Men, a couple little things called Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and of course, our very own, very favorite Agent Carter. So tons of stuff over the years. really, really an amazing bit of work there. So I got to give hats off whenever a director grabs me that I got to talk about there. Sorry, Rob, we lost you there in the middle of your beautiful praise of the episode.
Uh, well, it's still going on. I can't see you. Like I see your hashtag and everything, but you're not there. And when you were talking and saying you couldn't hear me, I was like going like this. I could see everything and hear everything. I was still here. It was really weird.
Okay, well, yeah, Babaro's saying we're both working fine. So, okay, yeah, I'm actually getting an unstable connection in my little read here, but I'm hardwired into the net. So, apologies if our signal is in and out. It's looking fine on our end right now, at least on my end. So, let's dive into things because we had kind of a cool little opening bit, and I was glad this was while we got of Ahsoka, and that we did focus more on what was going on Peridea and such. But we got a fun little joke. We got a little Star Wars reference as they're talking about the history of the galaxy, parts 1, 2, and 3. The part 1 is the best, which is funny because you're like, are you talking chronologically, or for her? Part 1 would be like the prequels, effectively, which would be where she came out of. So, you can look at it either way. It was just a fun little bit. It gives us the episode title because that's where Hu Yang was beginning his story of a long time ago in a galaxy far, far. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of a fun little bit. But more to the point, we get a discussion on Sabine's choice. And this is something that resonates throughout the episode and is touched on by various people through there, is the choice that Sabine made to go with Balin and Morgan Elsbeth and them willingly and let them take the map and get their thing. And Sabine looking at it as a selfish choice, not realizing the larger consequences. Hu Yang a little different though, and I love his idea. Look, that this may be the only choice that she could have made. And again, we get Thrawn talking about this. I think even Balin makes a comment about this later on. But Rob, how did you think about this kind of focusing on the weight of Sabine's choice through this episode?
I mean, I guess here I was like struggling to find something to kind of complain about, and you kind of set me up pretty good.
There we go.
No, it's not a complaint really. It's just, again, we've talked about how this is, the story feels like the choices are the cartoon choices. It feels like it doesn't feel like serious like show choices. I feel like, yeah, they were always gonna have her do what she's gonna do to get to Ezra, but it was just kind of, it's always done just kind of very simply and matter of factly, like just, yeah, no, I'm just gonna do my thing. Like I'm gonna make the wrong choice or whatever's appeared to be the wrong choice. I've still struggled with liking Sabine, especially when both of these characters are overshadowed by the villains.
Right.
But I do wish that they could have gotten to where they needed to get without it being so I'm just going to disobey because this is what shows do. This is what movies do. They say, of course, I'm not going to have a problem making the right choice. And then as soon as they say it, you know what they're going to do. They're telegraphing it really hard. And, but they needed to get to Ezra. And I feel like they can always write a line or two to just justify it better is all. I feel like she's not a weak character, so don't make her make a weak choice for no reason. Real reason, not just we're friends. Like give some sort of other stakes to it. I don't know. Again, it's not a big gripe. It's just following good storylines, it just feels a little lazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is another one of those where if they weren't constrained by their kind of 8-episode, whatever they're I mean, I guess the Star Wars aren't so much, but I feel like this is something where a couple of more episodes on the lead in and maybe even afterwards, depending on where we go, might have worked so that we could have some character focus on really what the weight of this is, because it's touched on, but I don't know if it's really given the weight that it really has. Certainly how Ahsoka is looking at it, and how Hu Yang is kind of weighing it. But even
Well, it's
Thrawn later,
also
yeah,
well, it's also compounded by what happens later too, where it's like this really like cliche obvious thing, and it's telegraphed, and you know what's gonna happen. Those couple of moments are the only to me weak parts of this episode. When they suddenly have to try to get from A to B, we end up back in cliche Plotville for some reason. It's all this, it kind of in my head kind of derails it for a second. It's a record skip where I'm just like like going over a bump suddenly. It's like I lose focus for a second, but I'm right back in again after I just kind of go, okay, yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense because, like I said, this was hit on a couple of times. Balin mentions to her when Morgan is questioning about bringing her that her focus on Ezra blinds her, and therefore it makes her useful. Thrawn talks about how the fate of a galaxy can weigh upon that choice. And does she know what she did? And she kind of throws that back, and it's like, you wouldn't understand. And certainly I'm excited to see Ezra. We'll definitely get to that intro, but I just like the idea that even though I didn't feel it had a big setup like we were talking about, the fact that we are focusing on the weight of that, even the fact that she avoids kind of conveying that choice when she runs into Ezra, gets a nice through line, I think, through this episode, and kind of explains a little bit more of why some of these pieces are working together.
I guess that's why like I just didn't feel the weight of it as much as you, I guess, because I was focused on the just kind of lazy way they did it.
Sure.
And so it's like I see it there, but I'm a little less like happy with the result or the way that they did it. And the Hu Yang stuff, I mean, I love it that David Tennant got to be the first person to say a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Like he was like, he was sitting in that booth. Like, I've got to nail this sumbitch. This is going to be the first time anybody's actually gotten to say it. Right. And I mean, maybe they said it in a cartoon, but I'm saying live action movie canon, blah, blah, blah. And that interaction right from jump was what I was like, oh, we're going to see a special show today, because they were in all ways honoring what has come before and showing us where we can go in this episode, and kicking that off with, like, I just love the idea also of just more about this droid, but the fact that he's like so old and he's like this remnant and remembers all of this stuff. He's the one of the last, like, probably beings that has the record of all of this stuff.
Right.
And I just think that every time that they do introduce a droid, or and he's been around, but every time they introduce a droid, they always end up being almost more memorable than a lot of the real actors. And this guy is just Tenet, and the design and just the Filoni's way, like, of creating this character and all of its backstory and everything is just never ceases to amaze me how they can make the droids so interesting.
Yeah. No, it's I don't know. I mean, I love David Tennant in pretty much anything, so you put him in that and I'm going to watch. But you're right. The personalization, the pace they've done, the look, the weight of the character, I think totally conveys and works so really well in this show. And you're right, and even through a lot of the other stuff that Filoni's touched on.
And again, like these side characters are so many ways, like, way outshining, well, not way, but keeping up and sometimes outshining our two main people, like, all the time. Like, and that's not a bad thing, because your side characters, man, if you don't have good ones, your show is going to be a mess. And so this show's side characters like Hu Yang are just one of the definite like strengths of this show.
Yeah. And if you're following interesting, exciting people, you want them to be surrounded by interesting people / droids as well. So, well, one thing I really loved about this episode is how much it got right to the point. I mean, my concern was this was going to be a travel episode. We're going to be talking. There's going to be this and that. No, right to it. Boom. We're in Peridea. We learn so much about the place. One, that it's a Purgle graveyard. It's where the Purgle go to die. So a natural stop in their migration route. This is also the ancient home of the Dathomir. Thank you. I can get
Dothraki?
The Dothraki. The Dathomir. We're just
the witches.
All of these names. The witches. Which is kind of exciting and not something I expected at all. I know Morgan has that bit, but I wasn't expecting that we were going to run into the Night Sisters here, the Great Mothers.
Yeah.
In addition to that, thinking that we are going to be, how long is the search for things going to be? Nope, Thrawn shows up right away. And some of the best, most impressive just bits. I love that we've got Sabine trying to use the Force again to escape out. Glad that she didn't get to do anything. But the rumble of the showing of the Chimera, of the Star Destroyer showing up, the great shadow, the music coming in on that. I think it was Eric. Eric's got in the chat mentioning the introduction music for Thrawn was awesome. I mean, just the camera work, the character work. This was just expertly done and gets us right into things. And man, it's good to see Thrawn up there. Very scary, very direct. I think a perfect performance. The voice work was great. Now he's doing it live action. I've got no notes. This was all perfectly done.
Yeah. I mean, that's like I said, we're seeing new stuff here. The theme song and everything, and the way that they handled all of it, and like we need more like stuff like the Night Sisters and things like that. We need to see all of the galaxy. We need to see all the creatures and craziness inside this galaxy. There's so many interesting stories and worlds and creatures that we've never gotten to have any kind of time with, and in this episode we get to see so much. We get new creatures, new people, not just like creatures like what she wrote or all this stuff, and then you get to see these characters and what they can do. And then I mean, think about what kind of stormtroopers these guys have to be.
Yes. Well, and some interesting ones, because one of the things that they had said is they've got to load up and get ready to leave, as per our agreement with the Great Mothers, is I think what Thrawn says. 3 days worth of stuff from the catacombs. And all I keep thinking is, are we doing undead stormtroopers here? Is that what this group is? I mean, the Chimera itself is all like beat up and then rebuilt with this like cool gold colored, whatever metal that they're using. Enoch's got that cool little face thing, and he kind of talks little ways, reminds me of Merrick. And I'm like, are the Night Sisters taking over of rule of our clone Jedi that was in the book series, in the Heir to the Empire series? There was thoughts, is Ezra going to be the clone Jedi? Is that going to be a thing? Are we going to have something else? If they're going to replace him with the Night Sisters and that connection to the Force, and that you could have like undead stormtroopers going off after people, I mean, I would never have expected that with Star Wars. And that idea is just so cool.
Yep. It's time to kick the dust off of the old Star Wars, man, and like be ready for some new stuff, Like I that's what is so important. You know, all these people that complain about Star Wars, when you get something like this, everybody needs to be screaming at the top of their lungs. This right here. This. You can do, like, one of the things I was thinking about, and again, God, we always go back to it, but like the way that this show could be so much better is to actually make it episodic, give each episode its own unique stakes or drama that's
Yep.
linked. It can be all linked. And you, if you don't know how to do that, it like have character and forward momentum and other things happening. Again, these people have to do is look at Agents of Shield again. And I know, like, we always go back to this well, but it's like if this show just followed that formula, every episode of the show could be like this one. They just have to be able to balance all of that stuff. And they still did it in, like, what, 42 minutes on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? This is about the same amount of time. Think about how much that happens in an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and how much happens in, like, over the course of these episodes so far to get to this one. And that's why, again, it's like, this is a very special episode because since I still feel like these are all like really just long chopped up movies, you had to have all that other stuff to get to this episode. If you were actually doing episodic episodes though, you could have this episode every episode.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking. This feels exactly like what that's supposed to be, both in getting story done and moving stuff forward in its pacing. I have to stop for a brief moment in the middle of this because I remembered hearing about this, but I'd completely forgotten. Eric, Ramona, you both are awesome for throwing this out. The guy playing Enoch in the gold-faced mask is none other than Amos himself, Wes Chatham.
Yep.
No wonder I loved him immediately. I didn't know, but I loved him.
Like, it's wild. That's wild, man.
But also I wanted to hit back in the chat, something Ramona Floyd here had mentioned, and I think this may be the answer for you, saying that the only problem that they had with this episode is the Night Sisters helping the Empire when Sidious destroyed Dathomir. Yes, but the Emperor's dead, and this is Thrawn who has a deal, and maybe that's how they rebuild themselves. That is part of this. Getting the stuff from the catacombs. They had mentioned how they were the first to cross the great expanse to heed the travelers, the Purgle.
It's their way out. It's their way out.
Exactly. So this could be their way of settling that score themselves by working with Thrawn, who definitely has a much higher respect, I think, for them.
Well, you know, he's a psychopath, so
yeah,
he's
who knows how this will play out for him.
But, you know, they could both be having plans to stab each other in the back when they get back home to, like, control that, you know, being able to control that ring, you know, that's a huge, huge deal. Like, that's a deal, like, that's something you betray people for.
Well, and we get the perfect reason of why that damn ring is so big, because you got to be able to park a Star Destroyer in there and take the whole Chimera back. Which is going to look just awesome unto itself.
And yeah, going about like Thrawn, man, just so freaking perfect. Just so freaking perfect. And I mean, his entrance, I know we've already talked kind of about it, but like, we needed an entrance like this. We needed to know what was coming and like still be, I'm like, for us, I'm sure that for other people, it'd just be like, so it's some blue guy with red eyes, whatever, but like, those who know like the lore and the shows and all the references and things that he's been in, comics, animation, books, you know, it was important to nail this. And it was just like, I could see the storyboards in my head when they were like rolling it out and how it would be like each frame, you know, something happening big and epic and just be, it's big and epic and it's just a bunch of people's feet.
Yeah.
You know, it's a shot of people's feet mostly and helmets. How do you make that great? How do you make it like Patton? You know?
You have your night troopers chanting Thrawn, 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 which honestly was a little much for me, but I allowed it because it still all worked.
They probably wanted to throw in a little Nordic kind of feel to it, you know?
So yeah, so again, beautiful intro, some nice hints of things to come. I did like the little bit of hints that they hit in with Sabine. Of course, he's willing to let Sabine go off, and I love this little bit how it's guised as, ooh, a familiar face. Yes, I heard of Balin's agreement with you, and I'm going to honor that. Go find Ezra. He may or may not be alive. Here's your stuff. Good luck to you. Maybe not as nice as this, because he did. He was right. Promised to let Sabine reunite with Ezra if he was still alive. Didn't not promise to kill them afterwards. Which again is a perfect kind of Thrawn setup and gets us our Balin Shin maneuvers out on the planet. Which, did I mention how much I freaking love their armor? Have I said that? Because I freaking love their armor. I love the look of all of them. And all those just little moments of him weighing and telling stories and how he's on this search for a greater thing beyond the Jedi and the Sith and the arguments. I mean, I really hope Balin dies by the end of this series, because otherwise it's going to be just suck so much to see if they're going to try and recast him with someone else.
Yeah, that's like basically my only note for them is don't try to go on without him. This is one of those times where, because I could see them being tempted to go, well, everybody really liked him, so let's do a prequel show. Let's go backwards, like to when he was like part of the Jedi Order, and then how he left. And it might be an interesting story, but I think if they waited a while, I'd be fine with it. But if they tried to jump on it right away, the popularity, because I'm sure that everybody's saying that basically the same roundabout way how great he is, right?
Yeah.
So Disney, don't let this go to your heads and jump on like, well, we better get a Balin show out there. Just let it sit. Let his performance sit, man. And maybe somewhere down the line you want to revisit it, put him in animated form or something, and have a really good voice actor do something. Fine. Because right now this is one of the best villain performances in Star Wars, and it's definitely one of the best acting performances, period, across all of the movies.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe it's just because we've never really seen anybody like him, but it's everything again, like what we want in a bad guy, which is complexity, different ideas, believes he's right, has some points, so many he's not wrong about things, and they're conveying it in intelligent ways and not just being like, I just don't like it, somebody did me dirty once, like.
No, he's not mustache twirly at all. He is calm, he is measured, he is dedicated, he has his point of view, he's committed to it. And yeah, it's this actor in this role which is doing that. If the character doesn't pass by the end of the season, I am fine with doing an off-screen death or an over the radio as his ship explodes in the middle of a dogfight or something, and that's it. Again, perfectly fine with that. All right, gonna move towards wrapping things up, so that means we're gonna have to get to Sabine real quick and her adventures on the planet. One, love the Howler. Your wolf, rat, dog mount, that was awesome. Her fight with the barbarians out there, perfect. No notes. Everything that I wanted. Great combination of gunfight, her armor, the lightsaber, all perfectly done. And most important, or hugely important to me, their transition to the more kids light-hearted section of the show and Aliens, perfectly done with the transition of the Howler following Sabine and wanting to try and make up with her for ditching her and running off in the middle of this fight. It lightened it up. It made it easy. It made sense. And then when you get to the little naughty aliens, or Noti, I'm not sure how it's actually pronounced yet, that's cute. That's your classic Star Wars cute alien. They move a little kind of puppety like. They've got a great look to it. They've got their own individuality. And that's what gets us to Ezra. So it's a perfect kind of blend. But I just love the fact that it was like your serious, straightforward stuff, and they do a transition to the more lighthearted ideas. So it's not some goofy shock of Jar Jar suddenly popping out of anywhere. I don't know. That really worked for me.
Yeah,
Rob?
absolutely. It was amazing. It was just, again, like the fight wasn't too slow. It was, you know, it went on long enough. It was exciting. We got to see new things in this kind of fight.
Yeah.
And I was, again, and this was the scene that really made me think about that whole thing about how to structure these episodes. And the whole thing with, like, I don't know if there was any practical of the Howler. I couldn't tell if it was all CG. That would be my only note. Is I want to see more like practical creatures in as many shots as possible.
Sure.
Just because I don't mind puppeteering when it's good, and we know that they can be good. And these little creatures, I was just so happy to see something again. I was like, oh, this, and this is what makes us be like little kids again when we see these things and we're not like annoyed with them. We just want to know about them. I want to jump into their world and I want to understand their language and all the, you know. And you're right. The tone fit perfectly. They waited just long enough to, like, you know, go from the heavy scene to the lighthearted scene, knowing how it's going to play out, but still being fine with it. Like, these are the kind of things that when they do it over and over, when they do it well, like they did here, it's fine. You can ignore it. It's necessary tone wise too. So yeah, right when they get to finding those things, and also the Howler trying, you know, not to eat them, and the little, like, the way that they handle all that, and then leading up to, yeah, you don't want it to be like a downer when she gets, you know, like on a down note as she finds Bridger.
Right.
You want her to be along on a journey where she knows she's going somewhere and not like, you know, like feeling like crap. And that's what they could have done after that fight. They had just gone from that and cut right to basically the village. So
yeah. Eric in the chat is mentioning that Eric from New Rockstars wondered if those guys' shells were attached to them or if they strapped them on just because how else would they put on their clothes? I think that they're strapped on. I think they're additions because the little guys speak the same language as our barbarians. So I don't know if they are related or a larger version of them. We did see some of the kids and they had the little shells behind them too. But I think it's just their protective bit. Like, they've learned to survive in this world. They got to get a rock to strap to their back as early as possible. And that way they can always duck and cover, as it were.
And that's what I mean. Like, we're talking about these things, like we're getting all into it now. We're getting all like, we want to know like all those little details. How do they work? How do they function? What is it like? It shows that we're basically starving for this stuff. We're just like, finally, give it to me. Like, keep it going. Please keep it going.
Yeah. And included with that is, of course, our last big reveal in this episode, which, again, so glad they did this now. So we got 2 full episodes to really move actual rest of story, rescue, return, all that forward. And that is Ezra Bridger returns. Perfect. His look, his mannerisms, the way he moves. I mean, all of that was just, it reminded me so much of the animation. The actor did an incredible job with this. I mean, the cast really overall, I think is pretty freaking awesome. But yeah, it was just, I mean, just a great little intro. Lean into the side. Just, I knew I could count on you. I was just so incredibly thrilled to see that. Even though, and I love the fact that even then, again, we're talking about this responsibility of choice. When he asks, how did you get here? It's like, let's hold on that. Let's just enjoy this moment before I have to reveal to you that I may have undone all the sacrifice and work that you did. We'll get to that part. Which I thought was great because, like you said, if she was on a downer and then met Bridger, that would have been a different things. They lightened it up. They gave us a good feel-good moment, a wonderful reunion, and basically said to the audience, yeah, we'll get back to the heavy stuff in a bit. Let's all enjoy this moment for a bit, for a moment. Enjoy the moment for a moment. So yeah,
and it's a great place to end the episode, or at least transition to Thrawn and giving us that kind of heavy ending. It's light, but boom, don't forget. It's a great way to remind us the threat. Ha ha ha, don't get too comfortable. And with Balin on their way too. This is gonna be great. The next 2 episodes are gonna be amazing. I maybe I'm run, but like I said, we were ready to wait as long as we knew it was going somewhere. And just know for sure shatters that. So I can't see the momentum letting us down here. Filoni's gonna be epic, and even if they're short episodes, right? I don't want to get myself too psyched up that they're gonna be long. But even if they're about this length, I'd be fine with the next 2 episodes being about this length.
Oh yeah, no, pack it right and keep the pacing up. Yeah, it will totally work. I know that Rick Fujikawa is directing one of these, who has done a lot of the Mandalorians and such like that, is doing at least one of the next 2 episodes. So yeah, if they held off onto their banger directors all the way up at the end, that's how you want to end it. That's what people are going to remember, is however anything started or went or pacing or problems, you end the next 2 episodes like this episode, I think you're going to be doing amazing. And look, to be honest, it's not like the past 2 episodes were really bad. We have story issues, between Rob and I here. But I think this is definitely the pace and the momentum of the type of storytelling that I can totally get behind.
Yep. This is what they need.
Yeah. And you're right. I do love that Thrawn leaves it for the ending of let's assume that Ahsoka Tano is alive until we find that she is dead. And if any whale comes near us, shoot it down. Execute any Purgle that comes near. Which, again, I always appreciate when the bad guys don't mess around.
The whales came there to die anyway.
That's right. That's right. Who knows? Maybe that was the purpose of the giant whale that's transporting Ahsoka to, and we're doing them a favor. No, we're not. It's going to be horrible when that happens. But
I mean, they might not make it to the planet, but they'll be in sight of it. That's
grow up before you hit the ground.
I kind of want to see it explode and her ship kind of go shooting out of the gore.
Yeah, if this was the anime
we can't get
of Star
we're gonna
Wars,
have to go through the thing. Let's
navigate through the digestive tract and have to get out at the end. Oh, that'd be a mess. Yeah, folks,
That's the way to end it.
Well, yeah, perfect. I think that is a perfect place to end it there. We covered everything. There's lots of little stuff. Next week, Don's going to be on. I know we're going to re-talk about a lot about this episode, and there may be a whole lot more to build on top of it in regards to Balin's quest and what's going on with Thrawn and the Night Mothers. But overall, yeah, just give me more of this episode. This had everything I want in the great proportions. And again, that pacing was just perfect. So let's do more of this. Any final thoughts there, Rob? Otherwise, let people know what you're doing.
No, this was 10 out of 10. So just keep it coming. I mean, within reason. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to get too hyped. But I mean, like I said, all roads. Rebel season 5, man, come on. Rebel season 5. I mean, I see it now. We have it. Do it. I don't want a movie now. I wouldn't mind a Thrawn prequel movie or something like that, or a bridge between this, like movie. That would be great. Give me 90 minutes of what happened after Rebels season 4. Between
Yeah,
then, with whatever's going on,
I'll take
because
all
I
the
know
large
they had to
minutes
have
that
some
you can
adventures
throw
there,
out.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So other than that, I'm on my Twitch channel, SmirkingRobPlays, all one word. If you don't know how to play D&D, watch a guy who also doesn't know how to play D&D. Play D&D on Baldur's Gate 3. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm struggling sometimes. Sometimes you got to walk away. Sometimes, everything works out. But it's pretty entertaining how I get there. Also, I got to remind myself, because of what you brought up with West Chatham, I have to get the Expanse Telltale game
Yes.
and play that on
With
Twitch. The one
courage.
with my favorite character in the entire show. So Drummer. I was like, I couldn't believe. Sorry that I'm talking about this now, but like when I heard they were making an Expanse Telltale game, I was like, all right. And then they were like, it's about Drummer. I was like, ah. I still don't know how I haven't played it because it came out on my birthday. But when we get it, we'll be playing the hell out of that on my Twitch channel as well. So that's where I'm at if I'm not here. And yeah, Smirking Reviews will be back someday soon. I don't know.
Want to be sure to say thanks to Eric, Scott, Barbaro, Ramona, Floyd
Oh
joining us
yeah.
all live in the chat. And Ramona, yes, thank you. I wanted to make a mention of this. Looked like Ezra had some chainmail underneath that shirt there. She's calling it Mithril, and I'll go with that. The elves do good work. But I'm kind of excited. Again, that just tells a little bit more tale of what's been going on in the planet in the past decade plus that Britter's been stuck there. So really excited about those things coming forward. And of course,
Yeah,
we will
man.
be back next week. Don Willie, hopefully we'll get through that little Purgle back up there and be able to join us. Really looking forward to hearing his thoughts on this show. 2 episodes left. Keep them coming like this. This is going to be awesome. Be really thrilled about that. So, thank you all very much for joining us. 6
Yeah,
p.m.
thanks, chat.
Thursday nights. And we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.
Deal with that.
Yeah.